Right, time to start putting some chips in sockets. I was looking at the destructions, which has got all the chip numbers on, well, most of them, apart from the ROM and the RAM. And then I noticed something which I don't think is mentioned in the manual. Let's double check. Can't see it. Anyway, it might be on the line in the wiki. Look at the layout of the chips on the foam. Compare it to the layout of the sockets. Let's put them next to each other. Same order. So these three chips here go here. Those three chips there. Z80, CPU, PIO, ROM and RAM. So Andy has laid them all out on the foam in more or less the same positions as supposed to go on the PCB, which I think is very thoughtful. So yeah, just a case of putting them in now. Right, so I'll start off with the smaller chips first, just to get warmed up. Let's start off with this, which is a... God, I don't know, can't read it. I'll look on the instructions later. Small chip there, and it goes with the notch facing upwards. Just double check that. Yeah, that's a real-time clock chip. Huh. Okay, so real-time clock chip, which kind of makes sense. It's next to the oscillator. Get pushed in, hopefully. I might have to bend the pins a little bit. I don't know if Randy's pre-bent them. Let's just bend that on there a little bit. There you go. That's a bit more square, isn't it? Sometimes you have to do that. That one's in. What's next? 365. These are all just logic chips. And 138 is the one next to it. Yeah, my theory so far is playing out. So just give the legs of the chips a little bit of a bend, just to make them square at 90 degrees. So they seem to have shipped with them slightly askew. There you go. So they're like that. And that goes to the left. Like so. 138. One of these days I'll get a... You can get formers for chip legs. And one of these days I'll get one. Okay, it's a bit of a fiddle around the LEDs there. So 3 in. Let's do that one at the top there. That should be a 7404. I'm going there, taking all the usual anti-static precautions here, as you can see. Oh, that one's not going in right. Let's try that, getting both sides in at the same time. Got to be careful, like with the button switches, not to kind of force it in and bend the legs. I've done that before now on larger chips like the Z80. Actually snapped a leg on the Harlequin. Is that in? That's in. 132 and 139, the two immediately underneath that. So my Harlequin's currently got a Z80 on it with a pin that is on one of its legs. One is about half as long as it should be, but it's just about touching the. It's kind of snapped off just beneath where the pin shoulder narrows to the actual pin proper. But it's still making contact with the socket, and it still runs very well. I figured that if it was ever a problem, I'd just get another Z80 for it. There we go. I say that was a 139, which it is. Oh, butterfingers. .39. All of these, the notches are on the left. So there we go. Is that top one actually in? There you go. Seated it a bit better there. And the three underneath that are, just double check, a 74 and two 70s. Yep. That's been 74. Two 70s. So the only things not supplied with the kit are the battery, which is presumably a CR2032, which it is, and the USB lead. So you need it looks like a USB-C there, or a jack if you're going to power it off a power supply. But most people have got these kind of things knocking around, haven't they, for smartphones and whatnot. I've got a USB-C lead. I'm going to use this from my old USB microphone. I could have also used the one from my Nest doorbell, I guess, the charging one. Might need a bit more encouragement. There we go, that's better. Right, onto the bigger chips now. I'll do the Z80 next. Yeah, these are a bit easier to bend the pins on because they're just a bit easier to get hold of. Do it on the table. Except that. That's better. Right, so let's get that in. Notch to the left. Let's see if we can do this without bending any of the pins. I've not overbent those, have I now? I don't know if you can overbend them. Well, I should go in now. Just need to be confident in my leg bending abilities. Get it central. Not quite. Just got to be patient. There we go. Perfect. That's nice and snug in there. I'll do the PIO next whilst I'm on the big chips. Z80 PIO, a chip I recently bought. A couple of, because I was using it for my Harlequin. It's my Einstein to Z80 development kit recreation, and the Spectrum needed a Z80 PIO. I've actually got a load of them now. Got spares, which is always handy. I think that'll just go in now. No, maybe. I'll give it a bit of a jiggle. There we go. That's in perfectly. So when you push it in and then you realise you put it in backwards. 39 SFO40, that's the ROM, it's a flash EEPROM. So that's the top one. I've got a couple of these in as well. I use these a lot because you can program them on a one of those Chinese EEPROM programs, a TL866 Plus, something like that. So, and they're electrically erasable. The EEPROM programmer can erase them. That's in. This has got a bit easier than I thought it was going to. There we go. And this is the SRAM, static RAM. Bit easier to get in because they're a bit shorter. Right. I think they're all in place. Right, ready for testing now. Board's looking good, all the chips are in place. We've got the keyboards just pushed through for the moment. They should still work. To test it, I'm going to follow Andy's advice, and I'm going to use a USB battery bank. And I have a USB to USB-C power cable, not supplied, but I had one knocking around spare. Yeah, so the moment have been putting off. Will it work, will it, or won't it? There's only one way to find out, and that's to try it. So the first thing you need to do before we power this up is make sure that we've got this jumper here in the right position. So let me just zoom in and show you. It should be one pin up from the bottom. So if you notice there's a legend to the left, USB power and jack, it should be next to, adjacent to USB and power. If you're going to power it off the USB, that is. If you're going to power it off the jack, then move it down to the bottom. Right, that's enough talk. Let's find out whether this thing works. Not tried this yet, so here we go. Oh, very good. Okay, that seems to be doing something. I've not got the key legends on, so I don't know what keys I'm pressing, but it's doing something, which is good. Excellent, excellent. And the clock's ticking. Right, I'm going to call that a win then. Means I can finish off the rest of the build. I soldered the keycaps on, put the keyboard legends on, the keycaps, fit the keyboard frame, and mount it in the box. Oh, and stick on the filter for the LEDs. Cool, cool, cool. Very happy with that. That's a relief. There's always that moment when you plug in something that you've just built where you think, is this going to work first time? Or is this going to cause me a whole heap of pain? So that was a bit of a relief. But there was one thing missing. When it started up, I was expecting it to beep, and it didn't do that. I mentioned in a previous video that I wasn't entirely too sure whether or not there was enough insulation stripped away from the speaker wires as shipped in order to make a good contact with the PCB when it was soldered on. It turned out that was the case. So I ended up unsoldering the speaker, stripping 2 or 3 mils worth of insulation off the wires and resoldering it back in. And even then, the second time round, the solder wasn't making good contact with the speaker wires because the wires are very thin and the holes in the PCB are a great deal wider comparatively. So third time round, I actually managed to get it to beep. Unfortunately, my speakers are not sensitive enough in order to pick the beep up, so you're going to have to take my word for that. But yeah, it does work, and if you do have problems with your audio on this and it doesn't beep when you first boot it up, then the first port of call I'd suggest is double check the speaker connection before you start investigating the rest of the audio circuitry. And if it does turn out that there's something wrong with the audio circuitry, then if you check the schematics that's included with the poster instructions, then there's very little that can go wrong there. There's only about 3 or 4 components involved. So it shouldn't take you too long in order to try and work out where the fault is. Anyway, on to the next bit. So it's finishing it off now. Electronically, it's sound, it works. The keyboard, although it's not soldered in, is working fine. So it's just a case of, I guess now, soldering all of those keys in place. And I'm going to fast forward through this because it's going to take me a while. But the process will be, as usual, I'll tack opposite corners in, top, left, bottom, right, for all of the keys. And then I will check whether or not it's aligned before I move on to the next bit. So over to the key installation montage. So that's the first pass of soldering done. Keys are all in place. There's a couple that are askew width. I've just noticed doing a quick visual inspection. I don't know if you can see it. I can't really get a good angle on here, but this one isn't quite flush with the board. The rest look okay. I think it's just that one that's the problem. So what I'm going to do now is just fix this one up, and then I'll test fit the keycaps to see whether or not, once I put the keyboard overlay on, the plastic cutout, that everything works as it should and nothing's catching. So I'll just fix this up and then we'll get on to the next bit. So I'm hoping that just a visual inspection will be good enough for this. You can see that everything looks pretty level apart from that. All of the switches are within the markings on the PCB. So let's just get this one fixed up. That's these two here. Soldering iron's still warm. Yoicks. And which end's pulled up? It's the top end. So just push the component back on the board. There you go, you hear the click. Is it worth me checking the rest? No, I think I'm happy with that. The rest look okay. I don't know what the tolerances are, to be honest, whether it's a millimetre or less. I suspect the tolerances aren't going to be that bad, but we'll find out, I guess. Right, so let's look at putting the keycaps on. So I'm assuming this is the right order anyway, the way I'm assembling this keyboard. Let's get the keycaps out of the bag. If you notice, the keycaps aren't symmetrical. Well, not. They've got a, not symmetrical is the wrong word. They've got a shorter clip and a longer clip. So the longer clip there is top and bottom, and the shorter clip is left and right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to align the taller clip left to right, so it's running parallel left to right, like if I rotate this round like that. I don't think it matters, but I think if they're all the same, aligned the same way, then there's less chance for it to go wrong later on. So hopefully this is going to work. There we go, one down, more to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast forward through this, and I'll see the other side. There we go. That was strangely rewarding. So I've not got many more components left now. I've got the keyframe, I've got some legs or spacers for the keyboard or whatever, and the keycap legends. I'm kind of making this as I'm going along now, so just bear with me. I'm going to try and see whether or not this is all aligned, and then I can finish this off. So back over to the board. So this is the keyframe that fits over the keys. It doesn't push all the way over the switches. I think it just rests kind of just below the keycap level. It's got a protective film on it, I think, this white covering. So I'm going to leave that on for the time being, peel it off at the very end. I'm just going to try test fitting it. So that seems okay, actually. That seems okay. I think that's probably going to do the trick. First time lucky. Again, the tolerances for the switches are probably bob on, which probably helps. There's not a lot of movement in the switches when you just clip them on the board. As long as you get them flush to the board, then job should be a good one. Right. There are two different kinds of spacers. There's ones with a short bolt, two of those, and there are four with a longer bolt. These are the ones we're interested in. It looks like an Allen key is required in order to attach these. So I'm just going to go and find my tool kit with the Allen keys in, and then I'm just going to test fit this, check I'm happy with it. If I am happy with it, I'll solder the rest of the pins on the keys in place, and then we can move on to the final bit. Should do the trick. Right, let's just rest that over there, I think. So it comes apart. There's a washer. You're not there a second. Right, okay, I got this, I think. Take the washer off, screw through there, then the washer, come back, then the washer, and that kind of goes like that. So let's do that for the other three spacers. Alright, high quality, this custom parts and whatnot. So let's just do that. Maybe I'm best off just pushing the washers on there, like so. It's a bit fiddly, this, isn't it? Then put the screws through the keyboard. fact, is it worth doing all 4 at once? Am I asking for trouble? I think those 2 are in. That washer's escaped. Is that one in? That one's not in either, is it? Patience is the key word here, I think. Okay, that's all 4 washers in. I think that keyboard is working as advertised. I'm happy with that. Right, okay, that's the test fit. The test fit's good. It's not going to get any better than that anyway. So as you can see, that's a little bit fiddly. I've got fat fingers, probably doesn't help. So like I said at the end of the video, I'm going to finish that off, and then we'll take a look at what's required in order to finish this project. I better get back on. Final assembly of the keyboard is fairly straightforward. It just involves removing the protective film from either side of the keyboard frame and then assembling it pretty much in the same way that I did during the dry fit. Whilst I was reassembling the keyboard, I spotted this small hole on the PCB that I'd not noticed before. It turns out that that's for the speaker to allow the sound through from the back of the PCB, and I'd not positioned my speaker under it, which probably explains why it was so quiet. I took the liberty of repositioning the speaker under the hole on the PCB and gluing it in place with a couple of dabs from my hot glue gun. With the keyboard fitted now, it's time to pay attention to these LEDs now, and they're looking a bit scruffy with the factory fit film peeling off them. So the first thing I need to do is remove this film. In the previous video, I already peeled the corner off in order to make this a bit easier because the LEDs are installed nearly flush to each other. So oh yeah, and the other materials I'll need for this is the strip, self-adhesive strip, to supply with the kit, and I've got a small spray of just water and a slightly damp cloth. Right, let's start off, peel the film off first. So those feel pretty flush, which is good. Right, so this is supposed to be self-adhesive. Now, I'm notoriously bad at this. If you've ever watched me putting a protective film on a phone, there you go. So just got to make sure you get the right side. That's that. I'm just going to spray it off camera with water. Yeah, just like dusting water, and that should help me position it hopefully and get rid of any air bubbles. That's the theory. That's not a bad fit actually for the first attempt. Let's smooth that over and see what it looks like. You can always reposition it. Cool, that's fine. I can live with that. I can live with that. Right, let's pair it up and see what it looks like with these, with this filter on them. Right, here we go. Oh, that's much better, isn't it? Very nice. Right, okay, so the next bit is to probably mount it in the case and then finally do the keycaps, and then jobs are good. onto the case. As you can see, I've already prepared this, and I put it so the lid's face down on the desk, and the PCB is mounted in the lid. And what I'm going to do now is just make sure that I can close the lid without anything catching. So like that. Good, which means that's probably a good position to mount this in. So let me just eyeball that. I mean, it doesn't have to be dead straight, I'm just a bit of a perfectionist, so like that. Right, okay, so the next step is to flip it over, take all of these pads off. Let's just do it over here, move the box out of the way a second. Take all these self-adhesive pads off. There we go. And then just mount it in place and have a bit of luck. That'll look good. Yoink. Just move that there a second. Just put the box back on here, face down, and lower it on. Make sure I don't put it in upside down, that'd be a bit stupid, wouldn't it? Make sure these pads are straight as well, or as straight as they can be. I suppose I can tighten it all up when it's done. So I'm just going to stand up and line it up. I think it was about there, wasn't it? I'm just going to rest it on gently first. I can check and still close it. Yep. And then just push it down. There we go. It is now in the case. So let's have a look at that. There we go. Perfect. Perfectamundo. Right. Excellent. So I should be able to, let's make sure it's absolutely pushed down on the pads. I should be able to now, with a bit of luck, close it. And there we go. The MicroBeast is almost done, but for one thing, the keyboard legends. So let's do that next. So Andy supplied the keyboard legends on a sheet like this, and I assume that they're self-adhesive, and they also appear to be in the order that they should be installed on the keyboard. In fact, let's just double check that. Get my backup battery out, power it up. It's just the shift and control keys, because I noticed, I think on the website, that they were swapped round. Control and shift were in different positions. So let's just double check that's not the case. Going to CPM is probably the best bit. I know these two are up and down arrow. So launch CPM. So this should be shift, which it is, and that should be control, which it is. Okay, so they are in the positions you'd expect on the keyboard. I mean, if I put my one in the wrong position, I can just pop the keycap off and swap it around, I suppose. So let's just see how much of a pain this is going to be. I might need a blade to get under. Oh, that's not a bad idea, is it? Or is it best just to peel the whole lot off? I wonder. And poke them through. Let's try that. These really aren't coming off, are they? They're quite thick stickers, actually, of vinyl. Right, I'm just going to pause this and I'll have a crack at starting to peel this off. Okay, that was a little bit more fiddly than I was expecting. As you can see, I've already put one of the keycaps on. It appears that there's a film on top of the sticker sheet, and you can peel that back and you can see there are holes where all of the keys are. So I think the best thing to do is peel this back and then just gradually peel the stickers off. So probably get a fingernail under the corner of one, or bend it slightly and just try and get the sticker off. It might be better to get a really fine blade under it to kind of get at the corner so you don't damage the sticker putting it on, and then just position it on the key as and when you've got it. Right, I'm not going to bother recording this. You got the gist. I'm going to stop recording now, place all the stickers on because it's probably going to take me forever, and then I'll see you at the end. Actually, I will show you a tip. Having struggled in fitting the first two, I've discovered a much easier way of lining them up. It's probably going back from my days of doing Airfix model kits. So peel the number off, or the keycap off, just using your fingers, and then just stick it on the end of a knife, like so. And then you can line it up without your fingers being in the way. Get it more or less square, like that. So, yeah, top tip for today. Makes it a little bit easier lining the keycaps up. Right, I will see you at the end this time. So there we have it. A completed MicroBeast in all its glory. That was a really satisfying build. I really enjoyed that. And the end result is very pleasing on the eye. I'm probably going to get a lot of use out of this. I'll probably end up taking it to Coda Dojo to let the kids play around with it on it. And it's quite handy having it in a box for transporting it. So I've got this and the RC 2014 now I can take along, which is fantastic. Probably took me about 5 hours in total. If you put your mind to it, you could probably do it in about 4 hours with reasonable soldering skills. Anyway, in the next video, after I've figured out how to use this, I'm going to give some hints and tips, including how to load software onto this thing. So, hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you in the next one.